今天是2025年的10月16日。那中国对特朗普亮出最强的底牌，就是对稀土进行全方位的一个控制。这究竟是妙招还是昏招呢？因为除了美国，就是特朗普威胁对中国商品征收100%的关税之外，然后也开始有其他报复性的措施。但是呢，除此之外，欧盟也批评了中国将稀土作为贸易武器，并推动全球的反制措施。那如果是这样的话，那中国的经济可能会面临多重压力。比如说中国的国内经济本身已经受到房地产的危机和通货紧缩的一个困扰。那这种贸易摩擦，即便说之前也看到说，因为川普前阵子的一个试行加关税，他加了一部分关税，但整体对中国的出口是没有太大的影响，因为中国失去了美国这个大客户，但是反而发展了很多相对较小的客户，但凑起来也让中国的一个出口量保持在一个比较恒定的状态。那现在呢，就是说，如果这样大家一来一回，可能会导致更多的经济和政治冲突。那确实就是会给全球的经济带来非常大的不确定性。那具体跟着我一起读一下这篇新闻吧。China plays strongest card to get Trump's attention. Will it work? China's decision to tighten export controls on rare earth metal was not only about strengthening its grip on the world's supply of the crucial minerals. It was also a high-stakes ploy to jolt President Trump into pay attention to what Beijing felt were attempts by his subordinates to sabotage a U.S.-China detente. Analysts say evidently it worked. Mr. Trump has redirected his focus towards trade with China, but China was also enough governments and business in Europe and sparked another now a tit-for-tat trade blow, rattling stock markets. Days after Mr. Trump said he would impose 100% tariff on Chinese goods next month, China added 5 American subsidiaries of a South Korean shipping company to its sanction list on Tuesday. Mr. Trump threatened to cut off U.S. purchase of Chinese cooking oil. By Wednesday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent suggested the U.S. government would counter Chinese economic measures by exerting more control over private American business in key strategic sectors. The escalating tensions threaten to wipe out any progress the two sides have made in the past 5 months to roll back punitive measures they have taken against each other. They also raised the question of whether Beijing puts its strategy too far by making clear that China will use the mineral as a geopolitical weapon. China was reacting to a September 29 decision by the U.S. Department of Commerce to expand the number of companies, including potentially Chinese ones, blacklisted from acquiring American technology. That move surprised Beijing, which saw the countries had reached a truce in their trade war after a few rounds of negotiations and a September 19 phone call between Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader, and Mr. Trump, Chinese analysts said. flexing China's control over rare earths, akin to poking Mr. Trump in the eye, may also have been intended by Mr. Xi to demonstrate his strength to a domestic audience before a crucial meeting of Communist Party leaders next week. If you are the leader and you just had a phone conversation with the US president, and then 10 days later they slap you and on your face, what would you do ahead of a major political event? Said Wu Xinbo, Dean of the Institute of International Studies at Fudan University in Shanghai. Chinese state media have hailed rare earth as the ultimate weapon in trade negotiations with the United States, with one television commentator saying the restriction dealt a fatal blow. Analysts who has spoken to Chinese officials said that Beijing believed that the Commerce Department move, which would target thousands of Chinese companies, was the work of hawkish members of the Trump administration. The sense in Beijing was that Mr. Trump, who was focused on Gaza peace talks and the U.S. government shutdown, needed to be made aware of the consequence of these moves. By launching a very strong counterattack on the U.S. side, Beijing is reminding Donald Trump that you had to take a hands-on approach with China, and not that hawkish people. The real relations between the two countries, Professor Wu said. Beijing was particularly aggrieved because it felt it had shown goodwill to the Trump administration by agreeing to allow the sales of TikTok, the analytics said. The question now is whether Beijing's gambit will succeed in getting the Trump administration to back down, or if it results in a full-blown trade war that could lead to a global slowdown. Already, it has led to a broader backlash, with the European Union Trade Commission accusing China of weaponizing its hold on the minerals and urging the European bloc to coordinate with a group of 7 nations to push back against the restrictions. The Chinese miscalculated, said Yun-sun, the director of the China program at the Stimson Center in Washington, who is currently visiting Beijing. People around the world saw the rules and were shocked and considered it an overreaction. For China, threatening to cut off access to its rare earth mineral has been its card against the United States. Beijing controls most of the world's supply of those metals, which are needed for virtually every modern-day technology, including semiconductors, robots, and jets. Earlier this year, the same tactic helped persuade the Trump administration to suspend its threat to impose sky-high tariffs on Chinese goods. But this time, China went a step further. It extended its controls territorially, meaning that exporters anywhere in the world would have to apply for a license to sell products with even trace amounts of Chinese rare earths. It's probably not a coincidence that China is taking such an assertive posture ahead of a Communist Party meeting to lay out a blueprint for the country's plan for the coming 5 years. China leaders typically want to project stability and strength during the meeting to burnish their legitimacy, analysts say. You have to respond strongly so that you can, I wouldn't say save face, but you have to consolidate your political position and show to a domestic audience that you are strong enough to protect China's national interests in the face of the provocation, Professor Wu added. With tensions heating up again, it is unclear if Mr. Trump and Mr. Xi will meet on the sidelines of the Asian-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in South Korea later this month, as had been anticipated. Both sides continue to up the ante in the past week. They began charging higher port entry fees for each other's shipping firms. The Chinese government blacklist fined American subsidiaries of the South Korean shipping company Hanwha, accusing the subsidiaries of supporting and assisting the United States in its moves in the shipbuilding industry. Mr. Trump said in a Truth Social post that Beijing was harming America's soybean farmer. He threatened to retreat more trade with China, including by boycotting Chinese cooking oil. U.S. analysts say that the Chinese Ministry of Commerce appeared to be aware that it may have overreacted, as the ministry sought to reassure the world that the new controls would not be used widely and did not represent a blanket ban, even as it vowed to fight back against any tariffs. China was overly confident that it could get Washington to walk back its latest session and at the same time avert any global blackback, analysts said. But China can ill afford more trade tensions on top of its existing troubles with the United States. Experts are among the few engines of growth for a Chinese economy suffering from a prolonged property crisis and a deflationary spiral caused by overproduction in key industries and falling price. Even as materials, a professor of Asian study at Georgetown University, who was an Asian advisor to President Barack Obama, said China could have pushed back without threatening economic coexistence against its geopolitical rivals. This is a hell of a way to get Trump's attention, Professor Madero said. You get somebody's attention by waving your hands in the air, not by aiming yourself to the teeth and just promising you are not going to use a 50 caliber machine gun on them. The new rare earth export control, which are modeled after U.S. export control, were likely developed well in advance of their unveiling, experts said. Some analysts say that suggests Beijing was merely looking for a pretext, like the new Commerce Department rules, to deploy the new measures. She fundamentally doesn't want to give the U.S. rare earth already any strategic materials it has set Keystone as their heat of the China focus consultancy firm as their adversary. The party has an articulated that the country that controls the upstream imports will enjoy the ability to develop the most advanced technology and keep it from others. Thanks for listening. Hoping your life full with the happiness and joys and with you have more the courage and confidence. 还是挺有意思的，就是看现在川普是虽然说他惹急了，就威胁要对就是包括出口中国的食用油，这估计是基于他们的数据调查和分析，就是比如说控制使用，就是控制出口到中国的食用油，来进一步干扰，就是说中国的一个供需。就像说吧，你大都可以忍，那我干脆让你吃不到，就哪怕这个招数可能就是也是一个会伤害他们自己的，但是他还是要这样做。但是从新闻报道的，从新闻就是双方这样，就是特朗普和习近平这样的一个回合来说，就是我并不认为，因为川普他的本质，我会认为他的底色还是一个商人。为什么这么说呢？因为前阵子的话，上周吧，要么就是这周，要么就是上周，具体时间忘了。就是川普19岁的小儿子，是小儿子吧？入职成为了 TikTok 的高管，上周之前的新闻了。对，那你看 TikTok，然后与此同时 TikTok 也差不多就是达成了协议。那我相信说，在有一些事情上，那中国还是有给川普很大的面子和好处的。所以不管说双方的一个贸易交战的话，就是如火如荼，还是怎么样，就是看似很紧张。那对于川普这个人的话，我会觉得说一切都有挽回的余地，因为他可以说变脸就变脸，就是他堪称川剧变脸。这是我个人评论，因为他可以假装得很生气，然后就像老板就是故意就是生气，然后震慑你，但是下一秒为了能跟你就是说握手言和的话，他也能就是瞬间放下架子，然后坚称说，诶，我们就是好朋友啊，我们一直都是很好的伙伴呀。所以说，作为一个读新闻或者看新闻的观众吧，我觉得就是我们是没办法了解到很多重要决策，就起码我是没办法了解到很多重要决策，它背后依据的，或者说它最终的点是在哪里，就有可能我只是打一个非常非常无厘头的一个比方，就比如说，中国为什么就是要管制稀土？那也有可能是不希望美国生产某一个东西，那有可能双方本来底下也说好了，然后是因为美国可能不想卖或者某个东西给哪一个，我觉得它就是这种逻辑的话，其实它可能是绕了隐藏，就是你背后的需求其实是隐藏得很深的，但是放在表面上，那就是稀土这张牌，那双方就有来有往。但就是还是比较悲伤的，就是看到就是如果全球局势又一次被卷起的话，那这种地缘政治啊，或者说保护性的经济主义对全球的影响将是一去不复返的。就是现在美国选上了川普这样的总统，那其他国家这种民族主义的抬头，他们也可能会选上就是类似特朗普的这种领导人来作为总统，那大家就乱成一锅粥吧。就是说，你政治体已经没有政治体的秩序了，就是大家在 政治当中玩的也是商场的商战，那就是都在追求自身的一个利益的最大化，那肯定的话就是全球都很不乐观。但是反正吧，活着就这么回事吧，他们当总统也就那么回事吧。谢谢。